Good morning. I just want to start by congratulating you. I just read in Hollywood Reporter that you've been cast in the film adaptation of Return to Whore Island.
Yes.
So I think we all can look forward to that blockbuster.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Maybe you can finally get that interview with Stormy Daniels on the set.
Thank you. This is my humble voice. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Carl, we had David Jolly on yesterday, former Republican, who, Travis, everything was going well.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when someone throws in, we have a seasonal home in wherever, then you're like, oh, you're Republican is right. And then don't you think tax cuts are good? Right before we were already long, he's like, don't you think tax cuts stimulate the economy? I was like, wait, okay, this is a trick. No, actually, because you don't ever mean middle-class tax cuts. You mean for the rich.
What it did was stimulate a whole bunch of complaint letters.
Right, because he dropped that bomb when I had to go, and I was like, okay, don't start with the tax. Okay. Because, Carl... Okay, and he is a good guy for this
A good
GOP.
reminder that Republicans are still Republicans.
Yes. There's Michael Steele told me he is a scorpion that will sting me when we get to the other side of Trump River. So at least
trying to get to Whore Island.
Yes, well, I'm trying to get to Whore Island. I will take a ride from anybody, including former Republicans like Michael Steele and David Jolly. But Carl, you've been a campaign strategist, for many years before you were an esteemed school board member. A stunning 83% of Americans say they support the new COVID relief package. Nearly as many saying that Biden's package is either the right side or needs to be even larger.
Right.
That includes 61% of Republicans who say the relief package is the right amount or should be larger, and 78% of independents who say the same. And Republicans are leaving the party in droves, as we're seeing on the rolls in a lot of these swing states. And what are they doing, these Republicans, during this impeachment? 60% of Americans already thought Trump should be convicted before the trial started.
Right.
What are they doing, Carl?
I think Republicans are really caring about the unity of our country, and they would like to see 100% of Americans polled supporting anything before anything gets done.
Right.
Much like their caucus marching in lockstep to everything Donald Trump ever wanted. If President Biden really means he wants unity, then they must march in lockstep 100% of the time on every facet of the program.
Yeah. I'm so, I guess, speaking of scorpions, Mitch McConnell, there's always reporting, right? Oh, he hasn't decided yet, and, he's not going to whip the vote, and he's going to let people vote their conscience, and, and I get the cynicism, certainly, about this Republican Party, but I don't know, man. This case is so powerful that the Democrats are presenting. And we're only one day in, by the way. They didn't even use they only used like 6 hours of the 8 hours they had.
Right.
Trump's defense was so pathetic. Jamie Raskin's like, we're good. He used like no time for rebuttal.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of Democrats who haven't even watched the videos because, they're done with Trump. But I got to tell you, if you're one of those people sitting at home who has not watched these videos that the impeachment managers have put out, you've got to watch them. It puts everything in, it makes you rethink what you thought you knew about the events of January 6th.
Yeah, I'll say. And I don't know, who should we hear from? This was brilliant. Jamie Raskin. God, and I love, too, it's like we have a black woman and an Asian man and a, African-American man and a Jewish man. And not only just the diversity, but also they were all so good, Carl. I was so proud. Like the
Stephanie,
talent...
also a gay impeachment manager too. I believe the first gay impeachment manager.
Yes, Cicely.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, but anyway, Jamie Raskin. I thought this was a brilliant analogy. But here we go.
Worse than someone who falsely shouts fire in a crowded theater. It's more like a case where the town fire chief, who's paid to put out fires, sends a mob not to yell fire in a crowded theater, but to actually set the theater on fire. And who then, when the fire alarms go off and the calls start flooding into the fire department, asking for help, does nothing but sit back, encourage the mob to continue its rampage, and watch the fire spread on TV with glee and delight.
Yeah. Right? Everybody uses the fire in a crowded...
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no better metaphor. I mean, that is exactly what we're talking about here. That's why, by the way, that Trump's impeachment lawyers, round number 4 or 5, whatever number we're on of his counsel.
We're hoping for cat filter guy on Friday. Does it start tomorrow? It starts tomorrow.
Yes.
I think we're down to cat filter lawyer.
Yeah. That's why they've had such trouble mounting a defense on constitutional grounds. Why they've barely even tried. Because they know they have no legs to stand on. They know exactly what happened, and these videos are damning. Look at the reporting around how senators are receiving this information. Look at how Republicans are receiving this information, like Senator Cassidy, for example, from Louisiana. There could be a crisis of conscience in those Republican senators who still have consciences to have crises with.
Yeah.
Well, and I thought it was brilliant what our friend Ted Lieu did. I mean, obviously, and Elie Mystal, I think, echoed this, Karl, on Twitter. He said, one thing I keep coming back to while listening to the House Dems, this mob was largely directed at Republicans. The level of cowardice to not be able to hold a man who tried to kill you responsible is just off the damn charts. I mean, that's what became so clear, is this was a clear assassination attempt on the Vice President of the United States. Yes, and the Speaker of the House, but oh my God, Karl, we were saying Mitt Romney was this close. They absolutely would have recognized Mitt Romney, know, and that he's a Trump enemy of the people and blah, 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 right? I mean, it's...
Well, and that's the thing. Many of these Republican senators know this information already. Much of this footage is not new to them.
Right.
So you really have to ask yourselves, what is going on here? These videos are about as much as building a case and showing the American people what many senators and many members of Congress already know, as it is about, a reckoning in Congress. You're right. These Republican senators, they were largely the targets here.
Yeah.
Trump specifically singled them out about the people that needed to be held accountable.
Yeah, Michael Cohen actually was one of the people that tweeted. He said, Ted Lieu reading quotes of Trump mocking Republican senators and calling them weak and pathetic as they prepare to weakly and pathetically acquit him is a ninja-style rhetorical move. I mean, we all know Ted Lieu's badass, but I mean...
They're not just voting to acquit him. They're voting to hang him around their necks for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Let's listen. I just got to do a sample of everybody. Listen, Joe Neguse was fantastic. Give me a little of him.
Now, some have said that President Trump's remarks, his speech on January 6th, was just a speech. Well, let me ask you this. When in our history has a speech led thousands of people to storm our nation's capital with weapons, to scale the walls, break windows, kill a Capitol police officer? This was not just a speech. It didn't just happen.
Yeah, I mean, Karl, it really... I guess the whole thing, I mean, you can't even go to the if this was a Black Lives Matter protest, or if this was Hillary or Obama or whoever had said this. I mean, you can't. I'm so tired of why are there two sets of rules? Why was a BJ something? I mean, they have no shame as to what they think. Lindsey Graham pretended for a year. Well, maybe for him, a BJ is a national security threat. But my point is, Karl, I mean, it is just ridiculous that if, like everybody keeps saying, if not, this is not impeachable, what is? Right? I mean,
Well, that's the thing. They've shown over 4 years that they're not willing to do anything to hold him accountable, save for an occasional tap on the wrist when they're finally cornered.
Right.
They're not willing to do that here. I will say that the fact that there are maybe 6 Republican senators who are willing to do the right thing here speaks volumes about exactly how big of a deal this is, right? He's managed to keep all of them in line, save for 1 or 2 here and there, for 4 years. That there are 6 Republican senators who might do the right thing here is a big deal. There should be way more of them, but that just speaks to the cancer that's rotting the Republican Party.
Yeah. Well, and even some of these, obviously, I think it's pretty damning. It's not just what we're hearing on tape from the rioters, it's what they're arguing in court. That Trump told us to, that Trump ordered us to,
right.
And it seems like a lot of them are having more self-reflection than any Republican senators. I mean, and granted, they don't want to go. They don't want to go to prison for life. But a lot of the QAnon people are like, "Oh my God!" And I bought this lie, and they realize they're going to lose their whole freedom and livelihood and families over. And I was just thinking, Karl, oh God, even having to hear him again in clips, it's like a bad acid flashback, isn't it? You're like, I have to hear him again. But I mean, just him, we're going to walk to the Capitol. Well, you know he's too big a coward, and we're going to fight, and we fight. You haven't fought for anything except yourself in your entire cowardly life, right? We're going to fight. We always fight. We fight. We. Really? You don't, seriously, you didn't fight for your country.
It was the authoritarian we. You've heard of the royal we, right?
Yes.
It was the authoritarian we.
Yes.
Of, you're going to go do this because I told you to, we.
And some of them, they said that, who was it, which manager, Travis said, they thought they were going to get away with this because largely they did, because he obviously ordered the code red, and he told them to National Guard stand down. They wouldn't let them have weapons. They wouldn't. So in some ways he did protect them, but not right. They thought he was going to pardon them, and of course not. He's a coward.
Yeah.
Was it Jamie Raskin? They said he left everybody at the Capitol for dead. Everybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was Castro.
Yeah,
that was Castro at the very end.
Yeah. I mean, for this guy, Carl, who has this traitor, who has no loyalty to anybody, it seems dumb politically to me, Carl. Why would you want to look at the polling? Why would you want to be lashed to him?
Because they're worried about primaries with low voter turnout. That's it. Yeah. That's the only reason. The ones that aren't completely nuts, and that's not a lot of them, but there are some. Yeah. The ones that are not completely nuts and sold on all the stuff that he's been pushing, they're afraid of being primaried.
Yeah.
Their hope is that they will one day see him in the rearview mirror, but that's never going to happen until
they got to put him there.
Bowing down to him.
Yeah. They got to put him there. Okay. Real quick, Carl, I'm so sorry we didn't get to your school board ness until right now, but obviously big debate on sending kids back to school. And I mean, I think the Biden administration is doing an amazing job. Jen Psaki yesterday said, in the first 100 days, it looks like they're going to hit their vaccine amount that they had talked about. I know it was floated about kids 1 day a week. It just seems like anything at this point is progress in terms of, but I mean, I don't understand why teachers and staff and all of, you guys wouldn't be first come I mean, if I had to bump Mama Bone for teachers, I would, is my point.
Here in Virginia, teachers and school staff are in that second wave of vaccines that's ongoing. I wish that was the case in every state in the country. So we're hopeful. We're bringing kids back into our schools between February and March, part-time hybrid approach. So there's a safe way of doing this. And we have every reason to believe, if you look at the president's proposal to help the country deal with COVID and the economy, that'll be helpful to us.
Yeah. And Carl, it must kill you as a school board member that if we had prioritized schools from the beginning, none of this would have happened. If we closed bars and opened schools and put the money to ventilating and to vaccinating teachers and all that. So I feel like the Biden administration is playing catch up on 1,000 different
things. So was the Trump administration was playing catch up because of its failures, right? Mm-hmm. So it started with them not bothering to refill our reserve of PPE and everything else. And that set the tone for everything that came. They were never ready for anything. They didn't try to get ready for anything. And it made everybody's lives more difficult. Yep. We know now from very good reporting and from congressional hearings that members of the Trump administration saw saddling the states with this as their ticket out of the crisis, because then they couldn't be held to account for any failures along the way. And that tells you everything you need to know about the president's leadership on this and how Biden is entirely different.
Yeah. Never takes the blame for anything, including it's just the mystery that we'll never know is why are all those people with Trump shirts and Trump hats with Trump flags were storming the Capitol and beating people with Trump flags. How will we ever know who sent them? It's such a mystery for the ages, Carl. No one to blame, really. Yeah. Okay. Love you, Carl.